You stuck with us. Good for you. In this screencast, we take a look at how to convert between bases, how to take a base 8 number and write it as a base 10 number, how to take a base 10 number and write it as a base 4 number, and so on. So several examples will be presented here. And so here is the first. Let's convert to base 10. Let's take this number 213 in base 4 and let's convert that to base 10. Now we remember that in base 4 all of the place values are powers of 4. So this is 4 to the 0 and this is 4 to the 1 and this is 4 to the 2. So the number 213 in base 4, that's 2 groups of 4 squared, 1 group of 4 to the 1, 3 groups of 4 to the 0. Well, that's 32 plus 4 plus 3. So we call that number 39. The number 213 in base 4 is the number 39. Well, what about 321 in base 8? Well, 321 in base 8, that's 3 groups of 8 squared and 2 groups of 8 to the first and 1 group of 8 to the 0. Well, what's that? That's 192 and 16 and 1. We would call that number 209. They call that number 321. We call that number 209. Well, what about the number 132 in base 12? Well, remember in base 12, your place values are powers of 12. Powers of 12. So that's 144, 36, and 2. We would blink and call that 182. They would call that 132. We call that 182. It's the same number. Let's see if we can go the other way. Can we communicate to them? Let's convert 718 base 10, it's a fine area code, to the following bases. Let's see if we can convert that to base 4. Well, we remember that in base 4, all of the place values are powers of 4. So the place values are 4 to the 0, that's 1, and 4 to the 1, that's 4, and 4 squared, that's 16. There's still lots of 16s there. And 4 cubed, that's 64. There's 64s in there. And then 4 to the 4, that's 256. There's still 256s to be had. And then 4 to the 5, that's 1024. There are no 1024s here. And so we know that we're going to have a 5-digit number when we're done in base 4. This is the 256's place. So the question becomes, how many 256's are there in 718? Well, if you do that division, you get that there are 2 with a remainder of 206. 2 with a remainder of 206. Well, that 206 is going to get distributed among the other places. So what's next? These are the 64s. How many 64s are there in 206? Well, there are 3 and 14 left over. And that 14 is going to get distributed among the remaining places. Well, this is the 16's place. There are no 16's here. So then we look at the 4's place. How many 4's are there in 14? There are 3 with a remainder of 2, and that 2 is in the last place. So there are 2 groups of 256, 3 groups of 64, no groups of 16, 3 groups of 4, and 2 left over. This is the number in base 4. So the process converting back to a non-base 10 base involves using the place values and seeing how many of these can we fit in there. Well, what if we go base 8? If we go base 8, then the place values are 1, 8, 64, 512. That's too big. So we're going to end up with a 4-digit number. What are our 4 digits? Well, how many 512s are there in 718? There's 1. That remainder is that 206 that popped up before. That's just because we're using powers of 2. It's not a big deal. So then the next place value is the 64s, and we already did that. And then this 14 has to be distributed between the 8's place and the 1's place. How many 8's are there in 14? There's 1, with 6 left over. So there's 1 group of 512, 3 groups of 64, 1 group of 8, and 6 left over. 1316 in base 8. Well, what about base 12? In base 12, the place values are the 1s, the 12s, the 144s, the 1728s. That's too big. So we know we're going to have a 3-digit number, and the biggest place is the 144's place. How many 144's are there in 718? There are 4, with 142 left over. And that 142 gets distributed among the 12's place and the 1's place. So how many 12's are there in 142? Well, there are 11 with 10 left over. So there are 4 groups of 144, there are 11 groups of 12, and 10 ones. That's our number in base 12. So couple of quickies for you to do on your own. A couple of things to think about. What if we had the number 5, 3 in base 12 and we wanted to convert it to base 10? What would that be? And then what if we had the number 53 in base 10 and we wanted to convert it to base 8? Take a moment, hit the pause button, see what you would do, see what you would get. Well, 5, 3 in base 12 is 63 in base 10. 53 in base 10 is 6, 5 in base 8. If you need to ask more questions about that, I'm available for you. Hope all is well. See you soon.